now it's time for me to turn it over to our presenter, Joe Kohecki, Director of Customer Engagement. The mic is all yours. Thank you.
All right, thank you, and thank you to everyone who has joined. This is a great topic to cover off today. We have a lot to go over. We're going to cover the watershed just in terms of the competitor landscape, web design, messaging, offering strategy, and really how to put the whole thing together to differentiate and stand out against the competition and competitors that may be in your market. So like she said, my name is Joe Kohecki, Director of Customer Engagement and Subscriber Marketing. And my colleague is joining me today. Bianca, can you introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. I'm excited to talk about this topic as well. So I'm really happy to jump in and chat with Joe and also receive your questions.
Yeah, so the agenda's going to look a little bit like this. We're going to talk about the noise. This is just really a bit on kind of the legacy go-to-market model and marketing tactics your competition is using out on their websites, and then a little bit of a moment for us all to kind of reflect and say, all right, are we messaging in the same way, and what can we do different? And we can start by understanding our brand positioning, really what our offers look like, and then how do we solution our offers around customers in different ways to create more of a consumer-centric approach to our web channel communication, and which is really at the heart of what most broadband service providers rely on to communicate their value. And then finally, ways we can help and you can get started today to beat your competition out on your website. So let's dive right in. So the noise, as I call it, if you look across any number of, large tier ones, even in some of our more rural cooperative kind of broadband service provider markets and stuff like that, you're going to see a lot of the same positioning, a lot of the same messaging. And it really boils down to the middle: fast, reliable, and cheap. And as broadband service providers relying on our website to really convey our value, if we say the same things as the competition does, is it going to make an impact? It's going to cut through the noise and get to the heart of what we want to convey, which is, one, our brand value, and two, make a connection to an end user, to a prospect, to a potential subscriber or member in our service territory, to get them solutions that match their needs. So, really, a lot of this is based on a number of factors. So many traditional go-to-market models are based on lack of insights, a growing competitive pressure in their market, whereby folks with a larger marketing budget and teams and maybe a little bit more of a brand equity come in and cause a little bit of a race to the bottom. We'll share some examples on that. But unfortunately, for many service providers, the competition sets the pricing, sets the go-to-market, sets the expectation of service delivery. But the problem is, it doesn't show the value that you're going to bring to those end users. It doesn't align particular offerings to the needs of particular customers, right? It casts a wide net. It puts everybody under one umbrella that says, you just need a generic set of speeds and a generic set of features and technical specifications for your home at the lowest price possible, right? And so this is not a good way to start to structure our websites, because it leads with commodity first. It leads with utility. It leads with the speed and the price, and a list of disparate features that may not even resonate with your particular end users. They're unique. And as you're going to see, service providers that are taking a different approach to this are starting to win against their competition, because their websites are no longer structured in a way that is transactional, number one, and two, is really focused in on a utility. Here's what we offer, this is how fast you can go, and here's your price, right? they're connecting with their audience, or connecting with their subscribers in a new way. If you don't believe me, ooh, that was a fancy little build. Did I do that? I don't know. If you don't believe me, here are a number of larger, some tier 1, some not, tier 2s, broadband service providers throughout the country. And these are snippets of their web offers. This is their website. Can you pick the best one? Can you find the value? Why would you choose one over the other? They look all the same. It's incredible to me when you look at it from this perspective, how apparent it is that there's an opportunity for you to stand outside of this, to really cut through that noise and to put your value in a different context, in the context of the subscriber. So it's fascinating to kind of look at the same tired approach that the industry has been doing for what, the last 20 plus years, with some obviously little nuance in between there, but it's still the same thing. And as marketers across all these service providers, you can see the race to the bottom. You can actually, in the creative, they're communicating outward the fact that we will acquire you as a customer at all costs. And Spectrum is known for this, even at the cost of their own bottom line. They will do everything they can to grab that market share, hang on to that customer for 12 months, and then ratchet up the price thereafter. But if you look at even the creative, my goodness, they will give away the farm in order to gain that customer just for a short amount of time. We know the churn rates are super high. We know the game so many people take with these types of plans. They game it, and they will sign up and switch to the next lowest price that they can get, because why? There's no value, perceived or otherwise. It is just a transaction, and in a transactional relationship, there's no loyalty. There's no long-term commitment. There's no needs being solved for here. It's just get a plan, sign up, it's super cheap, and that's it. So on that note, there's a new approach, and we call that a value-based approach. There's different ways we can do that. Some folks call it persona-based marketing or persona-based go-to-market offers. There's hybrid approaches to those. We'll get into it, and there's still obviously a tiered approach to show value in incremental ways, to increase business metrics as we go. So we're really going to dive into those here shortly. But before we do that, we have to be able to position our brand accordingly, right? It's one thing just to say, hey, customer, we understand you. But if that's not in our DNA to deliver on that, then there's a disconnect, and that's a problem. So you have to know why you exist, what you're going to do for that customer, and why. And then again, this will allow you to differentiate from the rest. We call that brand positioning. Your ability to communicate to your memberships, to your subscribers, to your prospects, exactly how you're going to solve their needs and why you're better than the competition. So again, we can't get to good websites if we don't have this first. We can't beat the competition and cut through that noise if we don't understand who our subscribers are. Now, this is an actual snapshot of a service provider's one of their markets, and the breakdown of the subscribers as they're categorized by these particular use cases. Or if you want to call them personas, you can, but it's really more accurate to call these a bit more use cases, right? So you can actually see seniors, parents, gamers, work from home, all of these different households that break down in by what percentage. Tell me what speed I should put the senior on, right? Or how would I differentiate my messaging to the gamer who needs something completely different? Would you say everybody gets a gig? Well, what's the price point? Well, what is the actual thing you're solving with a gig for the gamer or for the work from home, right? So the model actually starts to break down when you take a look at your customers and really ask yourselves, what am I doing for them? What promise can I make to deliver for them? And how can I solution around them in a way that is meaningful, solves their needs, and creates a connective differentiator than just saying, I'm going to get you connected with a broadband connection or a Wi-Fi connection. So once you understand this, you'll be able to quickly identify those needs and move to the value-added experiences that they're looking for, because they truly are looking for different things. What you would say to a gamer is much different than what you would say to a work from home. How you solution around them really matters. So let me just show one quick thing, and then we're going to get into how to build the offer with Bianca, which will lead to the website. I promise we're getting there to the website. But if we don't sort of do this foundational work on the front end, it makes it a lot harder to create content and messaging and web kind of architecture to support it. So let's put the whole thing together. Your customer should be the hero of your website. You are their guide. So when they come there, they shouldn't see, very technical things. What they should start to see is a little bit of your brand positioning around who they are and what they need. So this is just a little bit of an exercise of how to actually start to deliver that value, deliver the differentiated value of service through your offering, right? So let's say in your market, you have many parents, households with small children, and let's take a look at one of those. So as an example, for a particular one, it could be a stay-at-home mom of 3, right? That's the persona, that's your segment. Who struggles to manage the needs of her family? Well, that's the problem. You've identified the problem. And our family protector or parent plan Wi-Fi service that includes all these great things is the solution. And so you can kind of see how the breakdown of this starts to impact what you're going to say within your website, within your offers, within your marketing communications. And it's setting a promise, which is the benefit. You will provide simple, worry-free internet connectivity and experiences that gives that mom peace of mind and time back in her day. You're solving for her needs as a person. How do you differentiate against the competition? Unlike others, aka the competition, you're going to deliver trouble-free, convenience, on-demand support, everything they need within that home, control back, content monitoring, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This simple formula can be applied to any number of different, subsets of your subscriber base, and will allow you then to start to build the offer around them, and then build a website that actually speaks to them. So when you send out marketing communications and they hit that website, they see themselves in the solutions, in the offers, on that internet page, and will self-select, not based on speed and price, but based on the value you're going to bring them. Bianca, over to you to talk about offers.
Awesome. Thank you, Joe. All right. So like Joe was mentioning, if we take the persona of the parent or parents, or in this case, if you can go to the next slide, Joe, a guardian, we're looking at folks who potentially have younger preteens or teenage children, and they're preoccupied with, hey, how do I keep my kids safe while getting, a reliable connection and do all the things that I need to do all the things that my family needs to do while keeping peace of mind, right? So simplifying their lives. So in this example with the Guardian plan, what we're going to do, and I call this the hamburger or burger approach, because I don't know one person who doesn't like a burger, myself included. What we want to do is start building out that offer. And we could start looking at core service offerings in terms of speed. So in this case, 500, 1 gig, 5 gig, or multi-gig. And then we want to start building upon that. And what I usually do when I speak to my customers, my BSPs and my marketers, is we don't need to recreate the wheel. Lay out what you're already doing today and build that or call it out in your offering. You also want to layer in there managed Wi-Fi, Wi-Fi 6, 6E indoor, outdoor Wi-Fi, as well as the app, whether it's the personalized version of the app, the Command IQ app, or just the Command IQ app. You definitely want to call it out, because features are included in there that speak to that parent, to that guardian. And I'm going to go into language a little bit further. And then we also want to call out support. How many of you offer local support? That is a huge selling point for most subscribers. They don't want to call a call center, wait 30 minutes, speak to someone who maybe doesn't understand the reality of their day-to-day. So local support is a huge feature, a huge selling point, and something you definitely want to call out. And also included in that is optimized home installation, or a lot of you are doing free installation. Again, I've worked with customers where it's not mentioned anywhere on their website, and that's such a huge feature, especially when we're looking at tier 1 competitors that I've mystery shopped. A lot of them do charge for home installations. So again, if we're going up against a competitor, we want to call out all the things that you're already doing today and build that out into your value-based offering. And then finally, value-added solutions. So this may look like Bark, Arlo, Smart Town, parental controls, or Experience IQ, Protect IQ. What I would recommend, and this always goes back to speaking your subscribers' language, right? So not necessarily calling it parental controls, that seems a little broad, but maybe calling out things like, hey, set schedules and limit your children's screen time. So again, speaking your subscriber, your persona's language. All right. And part of that, so again, going back to the hamburger example or analogy, is it goes with branding. So how you present yourself, the promise that you're trying to deliver on, your subscribers need to experience. In other words, you need to walk the walk. So if we take, let's say, McDonald's hamburgers, we know it's cheap, it's good, it's family friendly. You can go into a McDonald's, your kid will get a Happy Meal, get a toy. It's easy breezy, you know what you're walking into. And it's on a cheaper side, right? If you go into a fancy restaurant where they're serving a hamburger that has truffle fries on the side, it's like prime meat with all of the fixings, and you're getting that burger delivered to your table with excellent service, you're going to pay a little bit more. But in either case, you know, whatever door you're walking through, what the expectations are, and that restaurant needs to deliver. So setting the expectations and delivering on that promise helps perpetuate your brand's loyalty and recognition. Next slide, please. Over to you, Joe.
Okay, sounds good. Just want to take a pause real quick. We went over quite a bit of detail there just in terms of the overall setup, and now we're going to get into the fun stuff, which is the website design and structuring. But I wanted to ask, when was the last time you took a step back and refreshed your website? Whether it was, something simple like you added a new plan, or you really did an overhaul to say, we want to modernize, we want to change our messaging, we want to change our web strategy altogether. So if you wouldn't mind, just take a minute and click on, when was that last time you did that?
All right, you want to close it out and see the results?
Yes, let's do it. There we go, over a year ago. I like it. In the last month, that's awesome. So a lot of activity there. Yeah, I would say on average, we, and Bianca, you can correct me, but annually big overhauls or refreshes is probably typical. So these numbers are kind of looking like, what I see. Haven't updated yet. 7% still a good tranche of folks who maybe are ripe to take a step back and maybe apply some of the stuff we're going to get into now. But I highly recommend, and Bianca, you can comment on what you recommend with your customers, but don't let the website go too stale, right? I mean, there's a lot of SEO reasons for that, but I just think too, in terms of the value you want to convey and adding different content, stuff like that, you should be looking at it frequently, at least quarterly.
Yeah, and I would agree with that, Joe. Just coming from an SEO background, I think at least monthly on the back end and seeing how you can refresh certain things, even if it's an image or images, I would recommend taking a look at it, monthly. I always also recommend an exercise where you bring in maybe a friend or a family member and have them take a look at the website and see how they navigate. I don't want to go off topic too much, but definitely once a month just to get a fresh pair of eyes on the website is a great exercise.
Okay, sounds good. Well, I'm going to turn it over to Bianca to go over a couple of case examples of consumer-centric websites and redesigns that took place, and really the ethos around why they did that and the strategy they took. So Bianca, here we go.
Yeah, I love this story because I worked with Singing River, who is an electric co-op in Mississippi directly. And what actually prompted the conversation around value-based packaging is, I believe it was back in February or March, they were like, hey, you know, like AT&T is offering 1 gig at $35. Like, how do we, in one of their areas, like we can't compete with that. And so I said, absolutely not. Going back to Joe's point, we don't want to get into a race to zero or to the bottom, right? So I said, let's look at what you're doing today. You're offering Protect IQ, you're offering Experience IQ, you're offering the app, you have a local service. Like I said, that's a huge plus. You're offering Wi-Fi and free installation. So let's just start looking at what you're doing today and seeing how we can, you know, repackage your existing packages. If you go to the next slide, Joe. So with Singing River, they had 2 packages that were focused on strictly speed. One was of 100 meg and the other was of 1 gig. And all they called out was really speed and price. And if we get the visual back, you'll be able to see that. And so what we said is, let's lay out everything you're already doing today and call that out. So right now we don't have the visual, but if you were to visit the website, which is singingriverconnect.com, on their packages, you'll actually see the visual. If we're talking about Singing River, they moved over to value-based, and we had an interesting conversation where they're like, okay, we're ready to move over to 2 value-based offerings. We're going to bump everyone to 300 and ensure that we get a higher entry point for subscribers and just make the experience a lot better. Have our 1 gig and offer Experience IQ, Protect IQ included already in that package, along with so you can see visually on the right side versus the left side, which is there before, how the visual weight demonstrates the value that they're getting out of each of those packages. So as we were trying to figure out different packages, naming the different personas, the conversation around 2 gig came up, and they were like, well, we don't know if we're going to get a lot of 2 gig folks. And we said, how about we launch it and see what happens? Because there is possibility. We don't expect, you know, maybe a high take rate on the 2 gig side. Within 2 weeks of launching their new value-based offerings, they actually got a 12x number of signups based on what they expected. So great stuff there. And just, yeah, I'll stop there. I'll pass it over, I believe, to you, Joe, just because
Yeah, I got a couple other ones. I know we're running out of time, and apologies for the little bit of delay there. So we'll move a little quick because I want to get into a couple other things. But Jade's another great example. Their transition has really been brand focused. They know who they are, they know their value proposition, and they know which, you know, kind of brand tone they want to take with their customers. And so if I go to what they were doing before, it was, you know, a bit more like technical focused. It was sort of like, what's the menu? You know, and if you go back to Bianca's kind of burger analogy, it was a bit of the drive-through menu, right? Here's what you need for streaming, and if you want a couple add-ons and a couple extras, that's what it was. Now, if you look to what they're doing today, in terms of safe and sound plan for families. So they really are drilling in, and it's not just parents necessarily. It could be, you know, families writ large. It doesn't necessarily have to mean they have kids in there. But if you look, they put everything together with some really distinct messaging around safe and sound. So it always doesn't have to be like a named plan, like, you know, the Gamer Pro plan. This is really about cutting to the core of what the service will deliver is safety inside the home, on the network, and also from like a privacy perspective. So that's what they're honing in on. I'm going to jump ahead and really, so how can you start to beat your competition? Well, it starts with understanding who those subscribers are and the solutions you have available to you today. You know, Bianca said, we don't have to recreate the wheel, but through the smart home offering, you have the ability to align solutions to customers in unique ways and be able to message those in unique ways out on your website. So, you know, for those who may need to drop quick, these are the three kind of main things I think that you can start doing today on your website, and it starts in the navigation. Restructuring that, not product-centric, but customer-centric. Let your customers see themselves throughout your site in different entry points, on the homepage, in the navigation, and into that internet page. Restructure that so it's not just about how fast and how cheap, but structure it in a way that allows you to evolve your messaging to connect your total value to your audiences, like Bianca mentioned. Take that hamburger and start from the core and work your way up through your value services and pull out key points that are going to resonate with different audiences. And then finally, you can let them drill in deeper in offer-based, you know, the offer landing pages, where you get to tailor that message and everything you're already doing. These don't have to be new SKUs or anything along those lines, but on the front end, it can feel bespoke. It can feel tailored to that user and allow them to see exactly what the promise you'll bring with the offer that you're going to bring to them. If you need help on any of this stuff, through Calix, you have the market activation program, which gives you a lot of what you're seeing actually right here in the form of our templates and marketing content in the electronic content builder, with our video content within Mave, and then also with the web builder templates that you have available to you today too. So you don't have to go it alone. There is a best practice already being established in the marketplace today. Our early broadband service providers who are adopting this approach are seeing great wins, like Bianca mentioned, and they're really starting to separate themselves from the competition using their website as the heavy lifter. That's the one spot where you can really build out the messaging and allow that then to drive the rest of your marketing in a cohesive and compelling manner. So let's talk a little bit about the top tips. What do we got to do to get our website working for us? Know the audience, focus on the problems you're going to solve for that particular audience or group of customers that aligns to. Elevate your value. Don't leave anything off the table. If you do something that's amazing from a customer support perspective with your technicians, you know, local, whatever it might be, get it in there, because chances are your competition is not doing that. Then finally, take what you have available to you, whether it's through, you know, the entire suite of Calix products with smart home, solution around them and message accordingly. And then from there, it makes it a lot easier to relentlessly communicate in your marketing, your direct marketing, your social media, those types of things, with how you're different and how you solve for those customers. Bianca is here to help too. Bianca, take us away with a little bit from the success side.
Yeah,
we'll wrap up with our final poll.
Of course, yes. So part of what we do on the success side is we host these workshops where we have 3 engagements: brand building, offering development, and campaign execution. So we kind of touched very high level today on a lot of the concepts that we would go through in these workshops. We also have tons of exercises we also go through. So within brand building, we ensure that we define the mission. We also, the main takeaway that I've gotten out of doing these workshops is alignment, just making sure your work is aligned with what your mission is, your positioning, differentiation, all of that. So we help define that and create a branding workbook for you to take back and then work off of that. Then we go through offering development, where we define core personas. We wear those hats and go through exercises of, you know, if you were a parent, what would you look for? If you were a work from homer, etc. We do competitive analyses. We'll go through acquisition assessments and so much more. And then finally, how do we press play and go to market with all the great work we've done? So how do we create campaigns, messaging, channel activation, all that with value-based messaging and offerings in mind, of course. So I believe, can we jump to the next slide, Joe? I think we might have a frozen slide again. Oh, there we go. So the call to action here, which I urge, oh, I think that stopped, would be to contact your account team or your sales area manager or your success account manager to get, if you're interested in one of these workshops. And of course, the ECB, the electronic content builder, you all have access, or you should all have access through your My Calix account, which is truly just a treasure chest of great content that you can use. A lot of those are value or persona based. So again, you don't need to recreate something from scratch. We've done it for you, and you can customize to your liking and to your branding. All right, we're a little over time. I do see a poll here. So if you could just answer that. If you have more than one screen, it might pop up on another screen of yours. So take a look at that and we'll start collecting some responses there.
Well, you guys are filling that out. I just wanted to run through the chat. Was there any questions? I know we're over, so we don't have a ton of time. Bianca, one really quick, I guess. Are there any, hold on. Yeah, what challenges do most service providers have with making a switch from speed and price to value?
That's a great question. I would say one of the points is getting fixated on personas versus value-based. And that's something that I wanted to point out. So we want to stay away from creating packages that are persona-based. And what I mean by that is calling it something like the parents package. That's not to say if there is a market for that, go for it, but expanding it a little bit more to perhaps like something like guardian or family, or I can't think of anything else right now, ensure that you're not pigeonholing your subscribers into certain packages, because what we've seen is with certain personas, there is overlap. And I'll give you an example. So if you take like a gamer, a typical gamer, you're probably thinking maybe a man in his 20s, 30s, does like first person shooting games or whatever it may be. Oftentimes that's what we think of as a gamer. However, we exclude the senior demographic who like games like Farmville, and they are considered gamers as well. So we don't want to call it something like and this is very specific, I wouldn't imagine anyone to do this, but just to give you an over-exaggerated example, the 25-year-old male gamer package. So we want to be careful that we're not pigeonholing ourselves, and we really want to talk to the needs of the persona and not just the person themselves. I hope that makes sense.
That did. Made great sense. Well, go ahead.
Oh, I would just say, I just saw a question come through. What was the telco you highlighted prior to Jade? That was Singing River Connect.
There was one other one we didn't get to, that was Tremolo, Tremollo. If you wanted to check them out, since all of you are staying on, we saw quite a few attendees staying on. You know, they've done a great job of really, you know, making that shift in a simple way. I think they didn't do a complete web overhaul. They just took the pages they had and then adopted this approach in kind of a new table format. So they did I think a really nice job of messaging, setting a new expectation of delivery, promising something new beyond just speed. You can see a fully connected life, and you know, unlocking new possibilities for solutions that fit your life. That's totally different from saying, you know, get a fast, reliable connection at a cheap price. And then their plans actually, I think, did a really nice job. To Bianca's point, is creating enough specificity in them, but not so much so that it disenfranchises people where they go, oh, that's not me. you know, I want simple and secure, but, you know, I'm also looking to connect my home a bit more. So this, I think, did a really nice job of providing enough of an entry point that even if folks weren't kind of sure where they should get started, they have 4 good spots, and it's easy to see what the incremental value is between the 4.
Yeah, I
So
love
good.
that.
Yeah. Glad we got to cover off on that. Well, any other questions that we missed? If not, we'll let everyone go. Nope, I think we're good. All right. Well, on that note, thank you so much for joining. I think we will have a replay of this posted soon, so you can see this information. Thank you for joining us, and look forward to seeing you on the next one.
Thanks, everyone.